Your distinction is much closer to what the biblical text itself emphasizes. The prohibition wasn't fundamentally, Israelites are ethnically superior, therefore don't mix with foreigners. It was much more, I am establishing a particular covenant culture. Don't absorb the religious and moral systems of the nations you're displacing. Deuteronomy 7 is especially explicit. God tells Israel not to intermarry with the Canaanite peoples and immediately gives the reason. For they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods. Deuteronomy 7:4. That's important. The stated danger is assimilation, not ethnicity. And the larger context strengthens your argument. The Canaanite cultures are condemned for practices Israel is specifically warned not to imitate. Child sacrifice, various forms of sexual exploitation and prohibited sexual relationships, divination, sorcery, idolatry, and other religious practices. Leviticus 18 even says, essentially, the nations before you practiced these things and the land became defiled. Israel is then warned that the same land will expel them too, if they behave the same way. That's devastating to an ethnic superiority interpretation. God isn't saying, you're Israelites, so you're inherently better. He's saying, these people corrupted the land through their behavior. I'm removing them. If you adopt their behavior, I'll remove you too. And eventually, that's exactly what happens. Israel assimilates many of the practices it was warned against, worships other gods, participates in child sacrifice, becomes unjust and corrupt, and ultimately experiences Assyrian and Babylonian conquest and exile. There's another piece that makes the prejudice interpretation difficult. Foreigners repeatedly become part of Israel. Ruth is a Moabite and becomes David's great-grandmother. Rahab is a Canaanite woman incorporated into Israel. The Torah repeatedly commands Israel to treat the resident foreigner justly, and even says, love him as yourself. Isaiah later describes foreigners who join themselves to God as being welcomed into his house. So I'd sharpen your argument one step further. The boundary wasn't ultimately blood. It was allegiance and culture. But there is a complication worth keeping. Some Torah commands to distinguish nations and ancestry in ways that can't be reduced entirely to individual behavior. Deuteronomy 23, for example, places particular restrictions on Ammonites and Moabites. Israel really was a bounded covenant people, not a modern multicultural society with no ethnic or national distinctions. So I wouldn't say ethnicity was irrelevant. I'd say ethnic, national separation functioned as a protective boundary around a theological and moral project. The purpose of the boundary matters. And Solomon is almost the perfect case study for what you're describing as foreign wives aren't condemned simply because they have foreign DNA. 1 Kings 11 explicitly says his wives turned his heart toward other gods, the exact cultural contamination Deuteronomy warned about eventually happened. There's actually a larger biblical pattern here that I think supports what you've been developing about God's government. God isn't merely trying to produce isolated good people. He's establishing an environment with laws, customs,